Right.
I need to just. What?
Yeah, that's what I said on this board.
Good morning. I will call to order the meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority, beginning with item number 1.1, call to order. Moving to item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance, I would ask President Griffin to please lead us.
Please join me in the pledge.
Thank you, CEO Griffin. Roll call, please. Lori?
Trustee Carey?
Here.
Trustee Kramer?
Here.
Trustee Jay?
Present.
Trustee Rose?
Present.
Trustee Chaplin?
Here.
Trustee Cunningham?
Here.
Trustee Giannoli?
Here.
Trustee Safraza? Here. And Trustee Sperber?
Here.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 2, public comment. Is there any public comment at this time?
Not at the moment.
Fantastic. Moving on to item number 3, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Richard J. Move to accept the agenda as presented.
I apologize. Before we second that motion, I would ask to remove the approval of the minutes from the board item. There's an item missing that needs to be updated.
Moved as requested.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the President CEO report. CEO Griffin.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It's great to see everybody this morning. I'd like to begin the CEO report with our monthly safety tip from Mr. Ted Ulm. I don't see Ted in the room, though, so I will get on with it, and we'll catch Ted if he comes through. First, I want to commemorate the launch of Spirit Airlines yesterday. We had an absolutely fantastic launch event. Spirits were high, let me put it that way. I want to thank Chair Kramer and Vice Chair Jay and Trustee Cunningham for being there with us. Spirit sent a great contingent out, and we just had a great event. Thanks to our fire department for the water arch. We don't get to do those very often, but it always looks really cool when we do. And just really exciting to finally have them on board. Their brand looks great in the airport. If you haven't seen the kiosks, please take a look at the kiosk, and we'll talk more about our common use system here in the meeting. Their brand at the gates and in the building just looks fantastic. So twice a day to Las Vegas, which is a route we never get enough of, and yesterday's loads were good for day one, so we'll keep our fingers crossed from there on. And in conjunction with that, I want to really commend the team that made this happen. Spirit basically told us, I think Art told me it was June 23rd when they said, we really can't come in unless you can implement a common use system that we can operate off of, which we did not have in existence on June 23rd. And a combined team led by Art Rempf and our IT team, our commercial team, public affairs, maintenance, properties, and outside help from CETA and Barish pulled together, met every day at 8 o'clock, and made it happen. What you see out there came together in 6 weeks, which is just about the fastest anybody thinks it's ever been done. But when an airline says, we need it to be here, this is what we're capable of. So it's an incredible commendation to our team and their ability to rise to the moment. So CETA was key in this, and Spirit was incredibly grateful. I heard it multiple times yesterday of just what they experienced with us. So very proud of our team, and we rose to the moment for sure. A couple other items for you this morning. Last month, the board approved our interim borrowing program, and on August 3rd, we closed on that. So we now have that available as a source of funds to us that we will begin using for the ticket hall expansion, which the board will see at the September board meeting for approval of the next contract. Burning Man. I've heard a lot about Burning Man. I've yet to see anything around it, and I believe it's about to happen. Beginning really next week, we see a lot of additional airline seats in the market, and hopefully a bunch of them are full. We think they are. We have load projections that are very high for the rest of August and the first 2 weeks of September. I know this is quite the spectacle I've heard, and I'm looking forward to seeing it in person. Of course, we also really appreciate the boost in business that it brings. This is going to help us finish August really strong and a very strong early September because of that. And great to see finally all of our events back in person and what looks like a robust attendance that they will have. And lastly, before I turn it over to Ted for the safety tip, I want to extend my congratulations to Ricardo Duarte. Sergeant Duarte with the Airport Police Department was recently promoted as our new Chief of Airport Police. He's not here. We are going to swear him in next month, but it's an incredible honor and a big move to go from Sergeant to Chief of Police, and he earned every bit of it. He is well respected, well known throughout the airport community, did a great job in the process, was up against other good candidates and won the day. And Chris Jensen, I think, made a fantastic pick. So I'll have a chance to honor him appropriately next month, but I wanted you to know he's on the job already, and we're really excited. And of course, promoting from within is always a great feeling. It really is when you have that talent inside the organization. So, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report for this month. But before I officially conclude, Ted, we're ready for your safety tip. Good morning.
I apologize.
Moving quickly this morning.
Yeah.
We move you.
You win.
Good morning, trustees. Chairman Kramer. Mr. Griffin. So, starting Monday, Washoe County schools were open. I've heard one or two of them may have a delayed start because of some construction projects, but we just need to kind of keep a watchful eye as the little kiddos start back to school. This is in itself is important, but it also leads us into the safety tip for this month. August is the National Traffic Awareness, I wrote it down to make sure I get it all, month, and the National Back to School Safety Month. Now, we all know we're not supposed to use cell phones as we're driving our cars, and I think for the most part, somewhat, everybody does that. But what about the 10 to 14-year-olds walking to school that are on their cell phones? They're busy as they go to and from school. They're not paying attention, so we need to be extra careful, especially the first couple of weeks of school. I've seen adults do it right out here, going from the parking garage into the terminal or back the other way. I've even seen employees, not necessarily our employees, but tenant employees, back behind bag claim, bag makeup. There's tugs moving back and forth out there on their cell phone. I've even seen them read a book. So everybody needs to be conscious. Even we need to let our kids know that, hey, you got to pay attention as you're going to and from school. And then as I'm researching this, I found a couple interesting facts about impaired driving. And it's not the impaired driving you're thinking about. So drowsy driving is impaired driving. If we find a friend that's intoxicated, we'll take their keys from them. But how many of us say, okay, we're going to take your keys from you because you're too tired to drive? The National Safety Council has gathered research that shows you are 3 times more likely to be in a car crash if you're fatigued. Losing even 2 hours of sleep is similar to the effect of having 3 beers. Some of these were like, wow, that's kind of interesting. Being awake for more than 20 hours is the equivalent of being legally drunk. So they're just kind of interesting facts I thought that I'd share. And that's the safety tip for this month. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Ted. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, board member reports and updates. And I want to just add one thing, if I may, on the Spirit Airlines event yesterday. First off, incredible work by staff. The setup of it, I mean, it was yellow and black, step and repeat wall. Everything about it was great. Media organization was great. The event, I saw Spirit promoted it on their LinkedIn and all of their social media. It looked incredible. I also want to thank Mayor Sheevy. She took time out of the city council agenda, paused it to come here to personally welcome Spirit Airlines. And I think that commitment from our public officials to the airport is something that is incredibly important and sends a very strong message to our airline partners as we bring them in. And finally, the other thing is they also, Spirit yesterday presented a $20,000 check to Urban Roots as part of their launch here, which I just thought was absolutely phenomenal. And I think is as much a testament to bringing in good partners as it is to our team here who's welcomed them and made them feel like part of our community from day one. So just, I can't speak highly enough about how the entire process was executed in addition to that. So I wanted to put that on the record. With that said, are there any other board member reports or updates? All right, moving on to item 7, items of special interest, and there are none. Moving on to item number 8, consent items for board action. Is there a motion?
Move to accept the consent item. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Richard J. moved to accept the consent items as presented.
Second, Art Sperber.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 9, information possible action items, beginning with item 9.1. This item was heard by the Finance Committee. Would the board members like to have the presentation today? Yeah, please, Trustees Fraza.
Just want to know if you guys had secured the funding for the insurance.
Thank you for the question. So far, we haven't secured it fully yet. The good news is we don't have any no's yet. We just don't have the final yeses yet. So we are proceeding. There are still a lot of open doors there. We're kind of in the process still of securing the funding.
So just, I guess, question for our staff, maybe legal. So by approving this, if for some reason that didn't come through, what are we obligated to do with this agenda item? I guess just from legal.
Funding is different than getting the insurance. They got the insurance. That's the requirement. So they've satisfied our requirements.
Okay. So, but if for some reason it didn't go through, there's no obligation on the airport side or anything like that with this agenda item?
We are obligated to grant a license if they met our conditions, and they have met our conditions. One of our conditions was not how they ended up paying for this down the road. It's just that as they do the event, they have the insurance. That's our protection.
And just a question for you. How much are you guys short to kick it off this year? Because I know time's ticking, and I know you guys are aggressively going out there trying to fundraise for the event.
Yes, sorry. We are set to proceed. We will have the reserve funds in place.
Okay.
Yes, so we will proceed regardless.
Okay.
Assuming that this goes well.
Yeah, and, so, all right. Thank you. That's all
Well,
the questions I
thank you,
have.
and this is phenomenal news for our community
Yeah.
as well. Any other questions? With that, is there a motion?
I move that we accept, that we authorize the president and CEO to negotiate the final terms and execute a 9-month commercial hangar and ground lease and execute a 2022 special event license with Reno Air Racing Association located at the Reno Stead Airport for a total combined minimum contract value of $192,672.
Thank you, Trustee. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. With that, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. Congratulations. Moving on to agenda item 9.2. This item was also heard at the Finance Committee, and I will ask if any trustee would like to have the full presentation or if there's any additional questions. If there are not, I would accept a motion.
Move to approve as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Rose. Is there a second?
Second, Cunningham.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 9.3, escalators. We don't talk about them enough. So this item was heard in the Planning Committee. Is there any desire from this board to have a full presentation or any additional questions you'd like to ask of staff?
No, just maybe, Mr. Chair, just to hear from the committee chairs of these, because since we're in a public setting now
Yeah.
on the thing, I don't need a report. but
No,
just
we're,
from Mr.
we're all
Sperber.
in approval of this, and actually, it's under the engineer's budget, which is kind of nice, so great job, staff. So I'd recommend that it's approved, and I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Trustee Sperber. And thank you, Trustee Sfraza. Is there a second?
I think there's maybe one more important point to make. One of the questions that came up during the committee meeting was how it would be staged, and they reassured us that since there's two at arrival and departure, that they would work on one at arrival and one at departure, so there would always be one operating, and that did come out in the committee meeting, so just for the record.
Sure. Mr. Chair just asked me if I wanted to comment on the staffing. And so, this is something we're also looking at with the ticket hall kicking off next month. We're also working on escalators. They're connected actions here. We have to look at everything holistically. And so we are evaluating the timing, making sure we don't unduly impact the customers. They'll be walking from one construction zone to another. The nice part about this particular project is that we do have redundancy, and so that we will always have an escalator available. But the tidal wave is beginning here of construction work, and so we are closely evaluating our staffing levels. We have people helping us now identify where we may have gaps. The ticket hall will be the most invasive project at this airport in many years, and we're very aware of that and pretty much working around the clock to identify the best way to do that and how to staff it. So if anybody is worried about that, that's okay to worry. I'm worried about it, but I've also been living this for a long time, and this is what airports do. We have to get in there and remodel at times and expand, and so we want to make sure we're well staffed. And I'm sure we'll be bringing back to you more information on what we will need to do to take on the whole program. But it's also important to account for timing. And this is the very beginning, and we want to try and do the right things and bring on the right resources at the right time. So far so good, but a long ways to go. But it's beginning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for asking.
No, thank you. I think it's an important discussion point with all of the construction, right? I mean, you're staffed to operate an airport, not to build a brand new airport while operating an airport, and making sure that as those needs go, that we talk about this as a board about if there's any change to the operational budget and how we can support you and the rest of your team here. Trustee Rose.
Can I just get a refresher on what time period this starts? I can't remember the estimated time period. It's okay if you don't know.
I think it's September, but Ted, check my math on that.
And we're talking about the length of time, is that what I heard?
When will the project begin? Is it September?
January, February, March. Roughly the end of April.
Oh, okay.
And then finish up right around November. They'll be out, actually, we just sent out an email about this. They'll be out in 2 weeks to survey, because they have to survey the equipment, but that's just shutting one down for an hour or two at a time and measuring so they can manufacture the actual mods that go in there. So
all of our event season will be over, so that's nice.
Yeah, so design and acquisition, everything, there's long lead times on all of this. So that begins basically upon board approval. We don't actually get in there until after the first of the year, though, so that is good news.
Yeah, with the same thing, these type of things we're reusing We get in there and measure it first, so starting construction is much later. You get it so it's correct before you pull one down. You know, so all those sequencing, and Ted, as we did the other two, and you saw it work very well, is these now with the redundant, everything's set up, but you have to do a lot of pre-work before you actually take the product in here and take it down. So that even though it's starting now, it's very upfront stuff, and they're measure and build before.
Yes, Trustee Sfraza.
The agenda item that's not so quick anymore.
No. This is a good. And by the way, I just want to make clear for the board. My intention is not to rush
no.
anything through. But if there's need for discussion, please let's have that. That is the reason we're here. But if not, let's move it quickly. But please.
Just two quick questions. The parts issue, getting back to what
Yes.
Art said, is not taking those down until we make sure that the parts are in stock. I'm assuming that's going to happen before we take one of them down.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Like Mr. Griffin said, that the manufacturing of these are, it takes some time. So that they will start, when they have that equipment, and it's a lot of steel and moving parts, they won't start until they know that they have that equipment here.
And then just one more question. I'm assuming that we're coordinating with Brian's team with all this construction happening at the airport. They've done such a good job, like on the parking issue, just getting it out there to the public, because I think people are, it's not like it used to be, where you'd get here 20 minutes ahead of time and you're okay. So just, I think that's just the other question I have with the construction happening here. If we're coordinating with Brian and his team to make sure we're getting it out to the public, get here a little earlier, things like that. With the airport, you know, all the construction that we're going to have going on here.
Please, CEO.
This is the More RNO program, and that is the basis for our communication plan. We will spin off a lot of different communication messages, whether it's escalators or the ticket hall rerouting of customers. When we get to the concourses, the roadway work, all of it comes from that base program, and then we will build messages that are specific to, you know, during this 2 weeks, there's going to be this impact, please do this, or whatever the case may be. It will change over time, over years as we do all of this work, but it's really important that we are communicating internally and externally, and that people are attuned to that. And those that we don't catch ahead of time, it just puts more pressure on your signage package to be great, that it's intuitive and people understand who haven't seen social media or anything in the news that at that moment, here's what I need to do. And we'll be ready for that. We've done a great job building the More RNO program. The brand looks fantastic, and now we will start to get into what it's going to deliver in terms of communication. Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other comments or questions from the trustees? We have a motion from Trustee Sperber. Thank you, Trustee. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you,
Chaplain.
Trustee Chaplin. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. And don't worry, board. The next board meeting is going to be like a 4-hour board meeting. We have a lot of things going on. So if we feel like we're going to end early today, it's just to make up for what we have to for next month. Moving on to agenda item 9.4. This was also heard at the Planning Committee. Would the board like to have further discussion or any questions around this agenda item? No? Accept the motion.
Move to approve.
Trustee Sperber.
I'll second and say yay for a locally owned company.
Trustee Rose with the second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 9.5. This is the approval of Reno Tahoe Airport Authority appointments. This was sent out in the board packet, and everybody had a chance to see this. Are there any comments, questions, concerns from any of the trustees?
I don't even know if I read it right, but I just had a question because it's never been this way before. the Community Outreach Committee, I only saw a chair. Are we not having a vice chair for that? Or did I just miss something?
Chair?
Please.
That is correct. We are going to go with just a chair of the committee this year, and Richard has agreed to continue in that role. Thank you, Trustee Jay. We are also looking hard at the future makeup of that committee and the timing and how to reinvigorate that a bit. So we're going to lighten the burden on the board a bit on this committee for this year. And then when we come back, hopefully during the course of the fiscal year, we'll have a clear direction on the way to get this committee positioned to get more involvement and better involvement. And so, Trustee Jay, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, thank you very much. We discussed this, and one of the issues we're having with this is that we've been struggling to get quorum. We've got good people on there, but their attendance level has not been the best. So one of the things we're looking at is cutting it to 3 meetings a year, typically January, May, and maybe October. No meetings over the summer. 2, working with Brian and Andy, we're going to kind of come up with a letter saying, okay, if you're on this committee, you have to be there 2 out of the 3 meetings. And if you feel you can't commit to that, no problem. We'll find somebody else. We've lost, unfortunately, we lost one of our members to, Steve Jackson, to that sudden heart attack and, didn't make it. So that's been unfortunate. We had one person that did graciously step down saying, I can't give the commitment. So I think what we have to do is just go back. And, the biggest thing that Darren and I talked about is the level of work that the staff has to put into these meetings is a lot. And with everything else going on right now, I think we have to respect that and just kind of revamp it. So we're going to be looking, Darren, Adam, myself, Brian, Annie, anybody else wants to give some input. But we need to kind of revamp it and make it even more vibrant.
See Cunningham.
I just wanted to say I'm really pleased to hear that, and I think it's time that we reevaluate that committee and the purpose. And I appreciate your comments about the undue amount of work on the staff, because I think that has been a challenge. So good job. Thank you.
And I want to echo that as well. I think that being cognizant of both staff time and trustee time as well on how we look to be most effective, because the work that comes out of some of these committees is incredible, and it's the reason we can go through a meeting like this as quickly as we have because of the diligence put on there. And so trying to make sure that we are being more effective, and we have a lot going on here at this airport right now. So I really appreciate everybody and everyone volunteering and their support of this. Trustee Sfraza and then Trustee Chaplin.
I'm just looking at we had the agenda item last month, the Sustainability Advisory Committee.
Yes.
So why not just incorporate, because I think that was, and I think our CEO knows how I feel about boards. I eliminated a lot as chair. So I don't know, I'm not trying to scratch any boards, but this one I look at, we changed kind of the purpose. So maybe that's kind of, maybe a couple members from the Community Outreach Committee could serve on that, the active members, because that one has had a hard time attracting people as well in the past. So maybe we look at, just a suggestion, we look at folding that into that particular committee, especially for what we, I agree, for what we want to get done and the staff work and the public noticing, and it is a lot of work for staff.
And I will say, Trustee Sfraza, that has been a conversation that I had with CEO Griffin when going over this initial kind of review of these appointments, is how could we consolidate some of this if there's some overlap in that work to be more effective from the time and staffing. So I really appreciate your comment there on that. And Trustee Chaplin.
Well, in the spirit of looking at these committees and their usefulness, I would also like to ask the board to consider whether or not the Air Service Liaison Committee is really necessary. I think that all of the board is rather passionate about air service. We have Jennifer Cunningham, who sits on the RASC. I'm also on RASC from my position in South Shore. And when we have new air service, I think we're all, 100% in the conversation.
agree.
So
I
I
could totally agree. I agree 100% on this. We're throwing a little wrench here for CEO Griffin here. I'm just
Nice.
curious on initial thoughts because I think, yeah, exactly. But I agree with that. Both the comments, the last two comments here, or a few comments.
So, Mr. Chair, one, great feedback, thank you. And I'll circle back to Trustee Safraza's comment on the Sustainability Committee, which was the Noise Committee, and we just transitioned to the Sustainability Committee. So we will certainly look at a consolidation as we go through this, Trustee Jay and I. It will take a board action to do those things, and so we need, I'd say, some time, excuse me, to look at that, but I'm happy to look at that because we don't want to have staff outnumbering committee members, and that's the situation we've been in recently. It does take a lot of work to put these things on, and honestly, we also have brought great content, and to just a few people, that's disheartening for staff as well. And so I really appreciate that, and as it relates to the Air Service liaisons, I am pleased to do the will of the board on this. I know this is, I think, a leftover vestige. We were talking about it before the meeting. Pre-RASC was when this was created. There was no meeting schedule for this group. We've called the meeting a few times over the last couple of years just to provide information because we feel like if you're named as a liaison, it ought to mean something. But we're kind of manufacturing content because all things of significance as it relates to air service we briefed the entire board on because everybody is interested. We're an airport authority. So we can, I'm not sure, Ann, on taking something off the list here, but happy to do anything.
The board can decide that it's not going to approve the appointment for that particular committee, and that will take care of that.
Trustee Safraza.
Mr. Chair, yeah, in the airport, I think that's a really
Jessica, please speak in your microphone.
Before, we didn't have a board member appointed to the RASC. And then when you came on, we had spoken about that. And then, so I think that's the big difference here, is we did have staff represented, but not the board, which I felt strongly it should be the board. So now we do have our board representative. So I'm in favor of eliminating that committee as well. I mean, to bring
Trustee-
it back,
Oh,
but.
sorry, go ahead.
Just for legal, and so if we don't appoint the members, that doesn't necessarily eliminate the group. So then what would the next step then be? Next month we would vote?
We'll put some kind of an agenda item on
okay.
with respect to the committee.
So could I propose then for the ease of this is to approve this these appointments today? I don't know that this means that there's any additional meetings or anything right now, but for ease, if the board would consider just accepting the appointments, and then in the next board meeting we have agenda items to one, eliminate the air service liaisons as an official committee, and if there's some additional discussion here that may be a committee item between Trustee Jay, myself, and CEO Griffin to present to this board about eliminating or consolidating the Sustainability Committee and COC. Thank you. If the board is amenable to that.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to
Trustee Kramer?
yes.
Was that Trustee Janoli as a second?
Second.
Oh, Chaplain, thank you.
Moving on to agenda item number 10, board member comments, questions, and requests for agenda items. So I think we have formally requested for additional agenda items, the discussion around those two committee appointments. Is there any other items that this board would like to discuss as far as future agenda items, requests, questions? Trustees Fraza?
Just one. I know that Darren is presenting, I believe, to RSCBA in September. I would like vice versa, too, if we could invite the CEO of the RSCBA to present to this board. I think that coordination with the air service and tourism is essential. And I know we had the joint retreat, but I think that air service fund is very different this time. So I would like that to go out and get an update for the whole board. I know, I think he can update everything that the RSCBA is doing, and I think it would be good for the board to hear that.
Trustee Sfraza, I think that's a great comment. I do want to just also point out he was here yesterday as well to welcome Spirit Airlines, and I think that was a very nice gesture in having that kind of joint presentation. So, CEO Griffin.
Absolutely. I'll make that request, and we'll aim for September as well if Mr. Harris can put a slide deck together quickly enough. I think that would be great if we could both do that cross-pollination in the same month.
Thank you very much. Something that's very near and dear to my heart. We haven't had it for 2 years now, and maybe we can get something just briefly, but I think we are doing Operation Santa Claus this year, correct?
I believe that is the plan, Mr. J. Yes. I can't remember if that's been put to me as a formal request or not, but Brian and I have been talking about it. Again, it's an event I haven't seen, but I don't see any reason why we would not. No COVID reasons to keep us from doing everything we used to do.
I think it's very important to this community, and it's a very good partnership that the airport has in helping all these kids. And for those of you who have not attended, CEO Darren, it's going to move your heart. I guarantee you that. And the way that room is set up, the way Brian and his team does that, it's just absolutely phenomenal for all of us that have participated in it. And I think you'll agree with me. It's probably one of the premier, in my opinion, it's one of the premier events that we do every year.
Agree. It's amazing.
Look forward to attend. Thank you. Anything else for under agenda item number 10? Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 11, I do want to point out that on the September 8th board meeting, for our Board of Trustees meeting, immediately following is a contract design workshop. And although it looks like we're going to make some record time here next month, please budget to be here till about probably maybe 12:30 to 1 p.m. There's a lot, and it's a really heady conversation. I mean, we're going to be going through pretty much $500 million worth of discussion items. So we will not move as fast next month. What?
I'd say it's more like $750 million, sir.
Okay, $750 million. Point taken. So I would just ask the trustees, because I know we're a month out to budget the time for that board meeting and that. Is there any other comments regarding item number 11? Moving on to item number 12, public comment.
Yes, we do have one public comment.
Please.
Good morning, trustees, Chair Kramer and President Griffin. My name is Diana Oldag, and I'm the account director for CETA. I wanted to step forward this morning and thank you for the approval of the common use contract. Yesterday, we delivered the phase 1 of the contract in record time. It really set some records for our own company. 45 days from initial discussions, 29 days with our staff on the ground. And yesterday, we delivered the gates, the check-in area, and the kiosks as well. I'm excited for this project really because it gives the airport tremendous capabilities, flexibility of moving airlines throughout the concourse and also at the gate area during the construction phase. So I just wanted to say thank you and appreciate your support.
Thank you, and thank you to your team, please. I mean, it's a partnership. That's incredible. Oh, and please.
Art Ramp, CIO with the Airport Authority. Chair Kramer, President Griffin, trustees. I just want, in regards to the common use project, I just wanted to tell you how much we appreciate your support as a board of us. And this couldn't have been done without the support of our executive team leadership, President Griffin, Mr. Carlton, Ms. Iftiger, Mr. Jensen. They really gave us the freedom to do what needed to be done to make decisions and move forward quickly. As Ms. Oldag just said, common use is typically a 12-month on a best case project, and we did it in less than 45 days. And also want to just express some appreciation to our staff, everybody from our custodial crews who now have additional stuff to clean, additional equipment to clean, to our purchasing and warehousing who are receiving things over the last couple of weeks that they weren't expecting, and then getting it to us so that we could do this implementation, to facilities, engineering, planning. Everybody in the airport was involved in this. Also want to express thanks to Hassan Azam and Adam Tennant for their leadership on the Common Use Committee. That committee is going to continue as we continue to roll out more common use terminals, workstations, and things at the gates and at the ticket counters. And sounds like a Grammy Awards or something. But
We're not playing any music.
just can't express how much, how great it was to work with such a great team. You know, even from CETA, as Diana said, they had staff on the ground. From Spirit Airlines, they had staff on the ground. Tim Archer from Spirit, their Director of Airport Affairs, he was on a call with us every morning, as was Diana. And from Barish Incorporated, Samuel Ingalls, who we've brought on to help us with our IT master plan. His experience in the airline industry and experience with common use was critical to us also. So it's been a great process that we've gone through. We've raised the bar on how we do things, and it couldn't be done again without the support of everyone, our executive team and you as the board. So thank you.
Any comments from?
Mr. Chair,
Please.
just wanted to thank Mr. Remp as well. His leadership has made a big difference in that project, and I didn't want him to sit down without knowing we appreciate his great effort. So thank you.
You, Trustee Carey. And I do, one thing that the other last thing from the Spirit thing was Hassan made the comment that the airport's been trying for a decade to get Spirit here. So to spend 10 years to try and get them here and then 45 days to get them live is pretty incredible of rushing to wait. So thank you to everybody. With that said, if there's no other public comment at this time, we will adjourn.
Good job.
Everybody said that.
Recording stopped.